Hi, I'm Chad with Move for Guitar. This lesson is from our series Music Theory for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to show you more chords that you can build starting on the third note of a major scale, so major scale 3 chords. First off, if you like the diagrams for everything in this series, including the diagrams for this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, Music Theory for Guitar. And this e-guide will be something that you can study and use as a reference for years to come. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to just go download it. But I am working on it as I'm filming this lesson, so if it's available, a link will pop up on the screen that will allow you to download it. If no link appears, you can look in the description and it'll say whether it's available or coming soon. And if it's not available yet, you can sign up for our mailing list and we'll send you a copy as soon as it is available. Also, if you're signed up for our mailing list, you'll receive all updated versions as well. But don't worry, you don't need the e-guide to follow along with this lesson because all of the charts will be on the screen. And also be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day. This is part 4.5 from our series Music Theory for Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So if you come this far, you know what we're doing. I'm just showing you more chords that can be built off the third note of the major scale. So I'm showing you 3 chords and how to build them. And if you look at your screen, I have this scale reordered starting with the third note of the major scale being the root. If it was the major scale, the first note of the major scale would be back here, and then you'd have your whole step, half step, and so on. But I've just created it so that the third note is your root, and all these intervals are corresponding to this new root. But if you come this far, I'm sure you understand that by now. So first we're going to just put that on one string like we've been doing. And you remember from all the lessons that we've gone over that if you build a triad off the third note of the major scale, you get a minor triad, a root, flat 3, 5. If you add the 7 in, you get a minor 7 chord, so a root, flat 3, 5, flat 7. Now I'm going to show you more chords that you can build starting with the third note of the major scale. And this one, I'm really just going to show you one more chord because the 3 chord has less common options for chords that you can build from it. And that's because you have the flat 2 and flat 9 and the flat 6 and flat 13, which are, in practical purposes, the same interval. And those are pretty what's called dissonant sounds. So dissonant means that they sound a little strange to our ears because we're not used to hearing it. Because of the interval from a root to a minor second, that's a pretty dissonant sound. And then if you're playing a chord with a minor triad, a root, flat 3, 5, the distance from a 5 to a flat 6 is a pretty dissonant sound because that's another minor second. That's not to say you can't build minor chords with the flat 2, flat 9, or flat 6, flat 13 in it. It's just a lot less common, and if you try it out, it might not sound good to you. So you can always try and add it in and see if you like that sound, but I'm not showing you in this lesson because I'm showing you the most common. And for the 3 chord, the most common are the minor triad, the minor 7 chord, which you already know, and then one more, which is the minor 7 add 11. And if you watched the last lesson, you should probably remember that the minor 7 add 11 is just taking a minor 7 chord and adding the 11 in it. And that's different than a minor 11 chord because the minor 11 chord has to have the 9th in it. But for starting on the third note of the major scale, you wouldn't have a minor 11 chord because that 9 is flat. So you don't have a 9th. That's why you can't play a minor 9 chord or a minor add 9 or a minor 6 add 9 because the 9 and the 6 are both flatted, so those aren't options for building chords off the third note of the major scale. But the minor triad, the minor 7 chord, and the minor 7 add 11 are very common chords and used all the time, so those are worth knowing. Obviously you already know the triad and the 7th chord, but the minor 7 add 11 is important to know as well. And in the last lesson when I was showing fingerings for the minor 11 chord, I actually showed you a minor 7 add 11 fingering that left the 9th out, and I explained that in the last lesson because that's a really common fingering for playing minor 11 chords. So that will work as well for a minor 7 add 11 chord. So I'm not going to actually show you any fingerings for the 3 chords because you already know how to play the triad, you know how to play the 7th chord, and if you watch the last lesson, you already know how to build and play a minor 7 add 11 chord. So one last thing I'm going to show is this chart again, where I'm showing the chord name, the formula, and the common chord symbols. The only one that's being added is the minor 7 add 11, and that's right here. You already know that it's a minor 7 chord adding the 11th in it, so it's a root flat 3 5 flat 7 11, and this is a common way to write it with a 7/n11, just like how the 6 add 9 was a 6/9. That's a common way to write it, and this is the most common way I've ever seen it and the only way I ever write it, so I only included this one on this diagram. So that minor 7 add 11 is another chord you can build starting on the 3rd note of the major scale, so it's another 3 chord of the major scale. Go ahead and move on to the next lesson, where I'm going to show you more chords that can be built off the 4th note of the major scale, so 4 chords. And again, be sure to download the eGuide for this series, the Music Theory for Guitar series. All the diagrams and charts are in there, and be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day.